Jake Shapiro, Anilo Piro, right here on the Mile High Hoops podcast after game 2 of Denver Nuggets and Los Angeles Clippers. And AP, Michael Porter Jr. took the blame for the loss. I saw him go around the locker room and apologize to every single one of his teammates after the game. He thought that turnover at the end of the game was the reason why the Nuggets lost. It was 100-100 with 100 seconds left. He tries to throw the ball up to Aaron Gordon. He decides he doesn't want to pass it after it just left his hands. He dives on the floor. It leads to a Norman Powell 3 that gives the Clippers a lead. They would never give up. Anilo, do you think MPJ was the reason why the Nuggets lost tonight? I guess as simple as that.
I mean, he definitely – I'll point to what Nikola Jokic had to say. Everyone can point the finger at each other for why the Denver Nuggets lost this game 2 tonight against the Los Angeles Clippers. I mean, in a vacuum, if that play goes differently, does the game end up differently? 100%. But if Aaron Gordon makes a dunk, it's different. If David Adelman calls a timeout, it could be different. If Denver hits their free throws, it could be different. If Denver protects the basketball and doesn't turn it over 20 times, it could be different. So, look, it's easy to point at Michael Porter Jr. and say, like, okay, if this doesn't happen, maybe we win the game, right? And obviously it was a critical sequence there that led to that eventual bucket from the Clippers. But I think it's one of many reasons as to why Denver lost tonight or yesterday.
Yesterday, I guess. The thing, AP, is Michael Porter Jr. led the team in rebounds tonight. Michael Porter Jr. had 15 points as well. He was a -4 in the plus-minus, but I don't think it does it justice. I thought the Nuggets were sparked when MPJ was on the floor. And if you look at the end of the game sequence, every single player had a mistake at the end of the game, except for Jamal Murray, who had a horrible stretch in the second quarter that got the Clippers back into the game. So every single person I thought could be blamed. Jokic didn't hit his free throws. Christian Brown missed a 3 and was hesitant on that 3. Aaron Gordon left Kawhi Leonard with like 5 minutes left, giving him a wide open corner 3, a huge shot for the Clippers when he literally only missed 4 shots. I don't know why we're leaving Kawhi if we're the Denver Nuggets. Like, what's that? And you can spread the blame around to me. And then Aaron Gordon, obviously the missed dunk as well, a shot he always makes. So to me, I'm not blaming Michael Porter Jr. I appreciate that after game 1, where everyone wanted to blame him and say, this isn't that guy, he shows a level of care when that was a question to go around the locker room and take that blame. I appreciate it. That's what Nikola Jokic said as well. But Nikola Jokic, like me, believes that was a team loss and the Nuggets lost that game. That's what Jamal Murray said. Jamal Murray believes the Nuggets lost that game more than the Clippers won it, and I tend to agree with him.
Yeah, no, and I agree with it as well because, as I mentioned, I rattled off, 5 or 6 different things that you can point to as to why Denver lost this game. And, I think the frustrating part about this, Jake, is I thought it was one that got away. And, Denver came out strong early in this game, outscored the Clippers 31-25, looked a lot better from the jump than they did on Saturday in game 1. And Kawhi Leonard was otherworldly tonight. And that's the thing is Kawhi isn't the sole reason as to why the Clippers won this game. I mean, James Harden was under 20 points. They cleaned up the turnovers, which was something that James Harden and Ty Lue, I know I caught some flack from it, on my last podcast that I did with you about, the Clippers lost the game more than Denver won. But, obviously Harden and Tyronn Lue felt the same way because they were saying the exact same thing. So I think the Clippers cleaned some stuff up. The Nuggets came out with some juice, but they faltered late. They look pretty tired out there, and there's plenty of reasons why. And now there's questions with Michael Porter Jr. about the shoulder. Jamal Murray's sick. Jokic hasn't looked incredible or otherworldly. So, here's the bottom line, Jake. The Clippers did what they were supposed to do. You're on the road, right? You got to try to split at least, get 1 of 2 games in Denver, and they did that.
James Harden, by the way, first game in his career that he had no free throws in a playoff game.
Wow,
which is
that's
incredible.
A stat.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say about MPJ in that play. I've already written it on denversports.com. That play changed the Denver Nuggets season. I don't think that's the reason why they lost the game, but Michael Porter Jr. turns over that ball. It leads to the game-sealing bucket, more or less, for the Clippers. They don't look back. Michael Porter Jr. bangs up his shoulder on that play, tells me after the game that he's never felt a pain like that before in his shoulder, and admits he is unsure of his status moving forward. If Michael Porter Jr. is not playing in this series, the Denver Nuggets are going home, and they're probably doing it in 5 games. That's the God honest truth. They need Michael Porter Jr. in this series. Everyone knows it. Everyone talked about it going into this game. And he was what Michael Porter Jr. needed to be. So if MPJ on that play, like he said, cost the Nuggets game 2, and then potentially got hurt and won't come back for this series, again, I don't know that. He doesn't know that right now. That play literally changes the destiny of this core for the Nuggets, changes the ability for them to make a run this season. I think after that play and after hearing people talk tonight, AP, I'm over here scared as heck that the Denver Nuggets might not win another game in this series. Like, I went from thinking the Nuggets were going to be their best selves. I thought they were going to blow it out tonight. You heard me before the game talking about this, and they really should have. If Kawhi doesn't go insane and have one of the greatest playoff games ever, if the Nuggets hit a couple more of their free throws, that's a blowout win for the Nuggets. But those things didn't happen. And instead, MPJ's hurt going forward, and you're going to LA, and the Clippers have home court advantage, and it's an actual advantage now for the Clippers.
Yeah, and I hear you, and I agree with you. You know, you and I were talking a little bit with some media members before the game. I had Denver losing this one before the game, and I just thought the Clippers were going to clean things up. I was confused about what Denver looked like in game 1, so obviously that came true. But I think that the concerning part is everything that you just alluded to. The fact that Denver played well out of the gate, and, you know, when could you, like, the trademark of the Nuggets in 2023, and even for a majority of 2024, is when the lights were the brightest, that's when they typically would play their best basketball. And that has not been the case throughout the course of this season. I mean, obviously tonight being the prime example, but there's been a handful of other games throughout the course of the season. The first Minnesota game in the regular season comes to mind, among some others, where Denver, come crunch time, for whatever reason, the lights are just too bright. And I think you saw that tonight in a series of unfortunate events. You know, going back to, I think the Aaron Gordon kind of missed dunk was the first huge domino of, like, oh my gosh, like, Aaron Gordon never misses that. That's a 99.9% conversion rate for Aaron Gordon in that sequence. Coupled with the Michael Porter Jr. injury sequence that led to the 3-point shot there from the Clippers, and the eventual final play where Christian Braun doubted himself, didn't take the shot when it was wide open, kind of hesitated there a little bit, bricks it. Jokic gets the ball, no timeout, game over, and really an anticlimactic ending to a game that for 47 minutes and 30 seconds was action-packed.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, AP, and the Nuggets actually did decently in the clutch tonight because they overcame a 6-point deficit. That's when the clutch started, per se. But just looking at the offensive rating in the clutch for the Nuggets through 2 games in the playoffs, it's 117, which is pretty good. That's kind of in line with where they were in the season. Go back to the 2023 playoffs. They were 120 for the entire postseason, including the finals, including when things got tougher against better teams. The Nuggets last year, they played 5 games in the clutch in the playoffs. Their offensive rating was a 147. They have been known as closers. And tonight, I felt not only execution-wise, because, again, every single Nugget made mistakes tonight. I felt that extended to the bench. I thought David Adelman, it was the first time we saw the rookie coach completely outcoached. I thought the game moved a little too fast for DA in the fourth quarter. Really did. He admitted it himself. He should have put Brown in here. He should have put MPJ in there. He thought about calling the timeout, but didn't know. And the Nuggets end up with that abysmal last play. I actually agree with them not calling the timeout initially because you get the ball up floor. You don't give the Clippers a chance to foul while being up 3, which is what every team in the NBA does now.
Right.
So initially, sure, the spurt, but they didn't know what to do. They didn't know to get the ball to Nikola Jokic. And now this is 2 games at the end of regulation in this series where they didn't get the ball to Nikola Jokic. And you have Christian Braun and Russell Westbrook taking huge shots for the Denver Nuggets. And I hated it. And I think if you're DA, you have to take a timeout at that point in the game. So that's one thing about the game moving a little too fast for DA. Another thing, AP, Nikola Jokic was livid with the foul calls tonight. I didn't see the game completely back yet. I thought he was right for most of it. The Nuggets went home with their challenges. The Nuggets didn't use a challenge tonight. I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's because Jokic is so livid all the time asking for challenges and they told him to cool it. But there were some clear calls that could have been made against the Clippers on Jokic that were not made, or some moving screens on Christian Braun that seemed to be pretty phantom, in my opinion. And they went home with it. And on that Clippers bench, you got Ty Lue and Jeff Van Gundy, who's coached about 400 playoff games combined, right? Like, I thought tonight the biggest advantage that the Clippers had over the Denver Nuggets was not only that Kawhi just hit bozo buckets and hit every single shots, but I thought the Clippers bench outcoached the Nuggets, and their adjustments were better than the ones the Nuggets made. as proved by the fact that Nikola Jokic only shot one field goal attempt inside the 3-point line until 6 minutes were left in the third quarter. I don't think the Nuggets knew what was coming for them tonight.
Yeah, which is definitely concerning. You couple that with the MPJ injury, Jamal sickness, among some other things, and it's again, I had Denver losing before the game tonight. But I think the manner in which they lost, you'd almost rather them get blown out, right? Because it's like if you're down 15, down 20, midway through the fourth, you pull the starters, right? Wipe the slate clean. But this was an emotional loss, I would say, for the Denver Nuggets. I mean, Michael Porter Jr. going as far as going around the locker room, apologizing. That kind of says it all. And so, to bring it back real quick to the David Adelman dynamic that you brought up, look, and I'm not sold. I don't think David Adelman should be the full-time head coach for Denver come next season. Make this Exhibit A if you'd like, and maybe that's not fair because he is a young coach kind of being thrown into the fire with 3 games left in the regular season, then right into the playoffs. But, that's just the type of stuff that when your margin for error is this big with the roster construction as is, you just can't afford to do that stuff on top of missing free throws, on top of turning the ball over 20 times. And so you mentioned it. They had a challenge in their pocket and they had a timeout left in their pocket. And those are 2 expendable assets that you want to obviously save for the end of the game. But if you don't use them, there's no value in keeping them. And so, I'm very curious. Like I said, they have now 2 full days off. They're off Tuesday, off Wednesday, and they'll come back at it on Thursday. So it's not like they've got to turn around after 24 hours and play again. They're going to have 2 days to kind of digest this, watch the film, and try to bounce back. But, this is, again, to me, a game that Denver blew to a certain extent. I mean, I love the way that they came out early in the first quarter, hitting shots, MPJ involved, Jamal doing his thing, right? And then it just kind of tapered off there a little bit. I mean, they got stomped in the second quarter. The Clippers outscored them 30 to 21. Then it was essentially even the rest of the way. 1 point advantage for Denver in the third, 1 point advantage for the Clippers in the fourth. And that's how you get to 105, 102. But again, it's a lot of the same issues that we have seen from this team in the regular season now creep up in 2 games now in the playoffs. And to go back to Nikola Jokic's point, he's not a believer in this mythical idea of flipping a switch come playoff time. And so far through 2 games, he's been proven right.
Give you the biggest stat, and I'll come back to Nikola in a second because we need to have a whole conversation about this. But if you tell me before the game the Denver Nuggets have 14 fast break points in the first quarter and then they end up out-rebounding the Clippers by 18, I'm telling you it's a blowout. And that's exactly what I expected. And the Denver Nuggets this year, when they out-rebounded their opponents by 18, they're 4-0. When they out-rebounded their opponents by 15, they were 7-0. When they out-rebounded their opponents by 10, AP, they were 19-1. They don't lose this game. They just don't. Throughout the course of the season, they don't even you look at the results of these games, a lot of them aren't even close because when you out-rebound a team by that much and you control the pace, you don't lose normally. I mean, the Clippers, when they got out-rebounded by 18, how many times did it happen this season? It happened once. They're the best rebounding team in the NBA. So you're spotting me 18 rebounds against the best rebounding team in the NBA, and you find a way to lose. I think that's, to me, the most concerning thing besides the Porter injury is you got the game you absolutely needed on the glass, and you still lost. And it's funny, because you get 18 more rebounds, and you still take 6 less shots because you're getting to the free throw line, but you also turned it over 20 times. And the Clippers really took advantage of this. In the second quarter, they had 10 fast break points. They had 18 on the game. Do you know how many fast break points the Nuggets had on the game, AP?
Shoot.
14. They didn't have a single fast break point after the first half.
Yeah,
they had
bad.
First quarter. They had 16 in game 1, and they had 14 in the first quarter, and then they stopped running. That to me is a real problem, and something DA even pointed out himself before the series. Said we need to make sure our fast break offense stays there throughout the course of the playoffs like it did in 2023.
And look, I know there's a lot of Nuggets fans out there that are sympathetic and emotional, right, and get frustrated, but it's unacceptable. I mean, it's frankly unacceptable in my opinion. When you've got the best player in the world, there's a responsibility to go out there and play the game the right way. And I know we're going to talk about Jokic and how he's been a little bit up and down in the first 2 games, despite having a triple-double here tonight. But it's the fact that you're talking about the Nuggets stopped running. Like this is not the Detroit Pistons. Like you know what I'm saying? This is a team that has a championship pedigree with 5 players in their starting 5 that have won a championship, and another guy in Russell Westbrook who has played a lot of high-level basketball in his NBA career. And Russ obviously is always running. Sometimes he's running too much. But it's just one of those situations that it's like you sit back and you talk to me about the rebound dynamic. Denver out rebounded them, as you mentioned, 50-32 tonight, and you're wondering how you lost this game. And you're 14 for 22 from the free throw line, 63.6%. You were below 50% from the field, and not just a hair below. You shot 37 for 79. 46.8%. I mean, the Clippers almost took 10 more shots from the field tonight than Denver did. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Talking about the rebound dynamic, 20 turnovers, which is just abysmal, especially after you carved out the Clippers last game with the same number of turnovers from them. Like you should know what it's like to be on the other side of that. Points in the paint, they got a little killed tonight, 46-38. There's just a lot.
Jokic didn't shoot a single shot or shot one shot in the paint for the first 30 minutes of the game. I don't know how that happens.
They're trapping him. They're drawing out the double team, pretty consistently. I mean, they're trying to make life difficult on Nikola Jokic, which again makes Michael Porter Jr. that much more important, which makes Jamal Murray that much more important as well. And so, look, Denver's got to go back to the drawing board. Series isn't over. Obviously, I agree with you that MPJ's status moving forward is absolutely critical to the success of this team. Maybe Coach Malone needs to come back and coach. I disagree with that, although I'm still kind of surprised at that whole dynamic for sure. But, again, this Denver Nuggets team just ain't the Bruce Brown Denver Nuggets, and Bruce Brown was in attendance tonight, and I'm probably sure he's sitting there on the sidelines thinking like, man, if I could just get out there, we could do this, we could do that, right? And, I saw my guy Swipa talking about how, he was like the Nuggets version of Andre Iguodala for the Golden State Warriors, and I don't think that's a bad comp, honestly. And so there's just something lacking. And again, if this is last year or the year before, with the stats you threw out and the metrics you threw out, they win this game 10 times out of 10 running away.
Yeah, and I'm not going to repeat what Bruce said off the record to me and what Bruce said in the locker room. But
you're going to tell me after the show, right?
Yeah, of course. But
I'm playing.
What you just said, AP, is something that is probably going through Bruce's mind. I'll put it that way. Obviously, he was very happy to be here tonight, and even came in the locker room and caught up with a couple of the guys after the game and kind of picked their chin up. So Bruce Brown is still leaving kind of a fragrance over this team of what they do and don't have. I thought Christian Brown was worse tonight, which is funny because Harden was not as good or prolific. I just thought the Nuggets defense in general was worse. But the guy that's supposed to be in that Bruce Brown role, the guy who can spice things up, is Russell Westbrook. And in game one, Russell Westbrook, when he was on the floor, the Nuggets had 110 offensive rating, 110 points per 100 possession. They had a 101 defensive rating. He was a net +8. Okay, AP? 110, 101. Mm-hmm. In game two, he was a 101 offensive rating and a 112 defense. Basically, the exact opposite of what he was in game one. And that really bore out on the floor. I know he hit a couple threes, but the energy was not the same from Russ. I thought the energy was far more pouring out and oozing out of MPJ. Jokic said this really interesting thing after the game where he's like, we made him take tough twos, speaking about Kawhi Leonard, but are they really tough shots for him? I don't think if Kawhi shoots those shots 100 times in a series, he's going to shoot 90% or 80%, whatever he shot tonight. So I don't think the Nuggets did that awful of a job generally on Kawhi, but I do think Aaron Gordon was worse. I think Christian Brown was a little worse. And unfortunately, Jamal Murray was sick and wasn't able to step up. And we're going to get back to Jokic, but just kind of looking at the pieces around on the chessboard, there's not really much left for the Nuggets to go to, especially when Russell Westbrook isn't providing that spark off the bench.
Yeah, and Jamal Murray wasn't terrible tonight. I mean, he was 23, 9 for 17, 6 assists, a couple of rebounds, a steal, a block. So, like Jamal did Jamal, but like the problem is, going back to Bruce Brown for just a second, like you don't have that. Like your margin for error is this big, Jake. And all you're doing is just putting, more and more weight of the world on the shoulders of Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., whose confidence has been up and down throughout the course of the season, and Aaron Gordon and company. And so, like, to bring it back to Westbrook for just a moment as well, like I think the Russell Westbrook signing has been a success. Like, I think that's a fact. But, like, you're also asking him to do too much. Like that's the reality of the situation where you're at with this Denver Nuggets team. And, like, when you break down the game one metrics to game two, like it's no surprise that it's a complete duality to me, because that's where we're at with Russell Westbrook. It's not like we're turning back the clock here and getting 29-year-old MVP version of Russell Westbrook, right? Like you have to kind of wake up and realize where you're at in regards to this roster construction, which of course is nothing new, but like that's why the outcomes of these games, as frustrating as they could be in the immediacy, and we've had a couple of hours now to digest this, it's not surprising to me. And look, I still have hope. Nuggets in 7 was my prediction before the series. I'm sticking with that, but back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the Clippers took advantage tonight. And real quick, when he's healthy, this dude Kawhi Leonard is still as good as it gets, man. What a game tonight from him.
People say this all the time about Kawhi Leonard. I don't think he gets said enough. To me, he's the biggest what if of the last 20 years if he stays healthy.
Yeah, dude.
Because he is an absolute monster. He's the only guy I've seen LeBron be actively scared of. That happened back when he won the Finals MVP in San Antonio. He won a series. He beat up the Warriors. Wasn't it maybe the peak Warriors, but he beat up that Warriors team, what was left of it. And every time he's been healthy in the playoffs for the Clippers, they've made deep runs. And you saw it tonight. There was nothing the Denver Nuggets could do except literally block the ball or take it out of Kawhi's hands that would have stopped him tonight. And he only had 1 turnover compared to the 7. And anytime he shot the ball, it was going in. There was only a couple shots. He missed 2 shots in a row, I think, early in the fourth quarter. And that's the only time he missed 2 shots in a row. Like he just did not miss. And then he made 2 really good passes late in the game to cutters. I think one was Norm Powell and one was Ivica Zubac on the free throw line, kind of taking advantage of Denver's defense, which was not as active late in the game. So no doubt about it. To me, Kawhi Leonard was the best player on the floor tonight. And in game 1, James Harden was the best player on the floor. Nikola Jokic has yet to be the best player on the floor in this series. And that is the Nuggets' biggest problem so far. To me, is that Nikola Jokic has not been the best player on the floor. We can go around it a million different ways. Nikola Jokic has been good. He has been good. He's been one of the best players in this series. He's playing at a level that is, maybe his C+, B- level. It's not been bad. But the fact of the matter is, if the Denver Nuggets are going to make a run, he literally needs to be averaging a 30-point triple-double like he did in the regular season. And tonight, he was a couple points shy of that. In fact, 4 points shy of that. And guess what? He missed 4 free throws. And guess how many free throws he's missed so far in this playoffs, AP? 6. Do you know how many missed free throws he had in the playoffs all of last year in 12 games? 7. He's already missed almost as many free throws. And that's what's killing the Nuggets right now. It's Nikola is, I don't know if he's not locked in or what it might be, because he even admitted it. He admitted a mental error when Jamal Murray was telling him to shoot, he thought, but Jamal Murray was saying to pull the ball back out. So he is not necessarily on the same page. And maybe that comes again from the coaching change, and he's got different responsibilities right now. But Jokic is clearly weighing a lot on the floor right now. And it's just not enough for the Nuggets because he's not playing at his A level, and the Nuggets need his A level.
He's probably tired. I mean, this guy has had to carry this burden of carrying this team throughout the course of the season. And look, I'm not trying to say he's not having fun out there, but when not everything comes naturally, like when we think back to the championship season, and even most of last year, like it was basketball nirvana. Like things just kind of worked, right? Like the flow, it was like a river, right? Like, okay, there's a branch here, a big rock, will divert the stream. Like everything seemed to come naturally and easy. And this year, that's not the case. Things are forced, things are clunky, things are ugly. And I'm sure that's taken a toll on him. And it's hard because like you were talking about, he's averaged a 30-point triple-double, like 100% he does. And he hasn't been good enough to carry this Denver Nuggets team, but that's also not fair to him. It's not fair to expect a guy to average a 30-point triple-double, even though you've seen him put up these numbers, 61, 10, and 10 against Minnesota in a loss. Obviously, that's going to be burned into my memory forever now. But like it's one of those things where, again, I think this is a great series. It's the most entertaining series in the NBA playoffs right now. It probably will be until the series comes to a close. But like, I'll use the term that Zach Bye used when I shot a video with him earlier this week for Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan. He's not going to let the 3-game win streak, call it a 4-game win streak with game 1, be the Listerine that washes out the bad taste from his mouth and my mouth as well of this Denver Nuggets season. 3-game win streak, great. Game 1 victory, great. There's still problems, and you got to go to the dentist and get your cavities filled.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, it comes back to the roster, but with Nikola, he needs to be the best player on the floor. We keep saying that. Ivica Zubac this season was a +11 net rating. Ivica Zubac in this series, a -7 in game 1, a -0.5 in game 2. You look at Nikola Jokic in this series so far, Game 1, plus 0.9. Game 2, minus 0.8. Nikola Jokic has been a net zero, literally
Crazy.
a net zero in this series. Kawhi Leonard, game 1, minus 1.1, and that's what the eye test would tell you. Tonight, he was a plus 8 in his minutes on the floor. The offense for the Clippers was a 124 with him on tonight, was a 111 with him on game 1. And granted, a lot of this comes back down to just shot making. But I don't think the Nuggets have enough shot makers. I don't think they have enough creators. I think there's a clear lack in this roster. I don't know that the Clippers are necessarily exposing it. It's something we've seen all year. But when Norman Powell's out there missing, 8 shots in a row, and then at the end of the game, he comes back and he hits, 3 of his last 4 shots, the Nuggets don't have that guy. And that's such an important thing to have that third shot maker. And, especially when you're the Clippers, again, you have another option, Bogey Bogdanovic, who plays him. He got played off the court tonight. He was 0 for 5. He's not going to play in this series. He's not going to be a factor. But the Clippers have multiple versions of these guys and abilities to play. I don't know what the Nuggets are supposed to do. They go to their bench and it's Jalen Pickett. They go to their bench and it's Peyton Watson. And I love Peyton Watson. I'm very high on his future. But the fact of the matter is he's not an impact player right now in the playoffs. He's just not there yet. I would have liked to see Jalen Pickett get a little bit more burn tonight. I thought he was fine this couple of minutes, but they're scared to play him because in game 1, he gets put out there. Kawhi gets a switch, shoots right over him. Like, he's too small for the playoffs. So there are some really concerning trends with this roster. I've been talking about it all season here on the Mile High Hoops podcast. I think this is ultimately a doomed season for the Nuggets. Like, whether or not they beat
100%.
the Clippers, you see what the Thunder did in game 1 to Memphis. You've been seeing what the Thunder have done all year long. I don't see a way that they're going to get through the Thunder no matter what. So it's just a matter of, can you win a playoff series? Because the last time Nikola Jokic didn't win a playoff series was 2022 against the Warriors. And when Jamal and Nikola have been healthy, the last time they didn't win a playoff series was against San Antonio, like their second year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is an uncommon season for the Nuggets. They created a lot of the problems they're trying to solve right now. And I think they're going to run out of solutions ultimately. I hate to be the Debbie Downer guy because I really do think the Nuggets can win this series. I've been on this all year. I thought the Nuggets were going to pound them tonight. The Nuggets did pound them. It was their recipe, and they lost. That's the funny thing about it, AP. Clippers played their style game 1, lost. Nuggets played their style game 2, lost. And I think that's the disheartening part is when you play your style and lose a game, it really kills you.
Well, and again, like going back to like the roster construction, like what is the answer? I mean, hopes and prayers, because there's just no answer. Like you got to hope that Michael Porter Jr. is healthy, but when he is healthy, he can go out there and build that confidence back up. And frankly, the only other guy skill set wise on the roster that could probably help this team, but he's just not ready, he's too erratic, is Julian Strawther. A guy who has that outside shooting, can shoot the 3-point shot, can handle the ball a little bit. The defense is a complete liability. And I mean, I don't even know if he's consistently bad on offense. Like he's had a handful of games where he's like, oh, okay. Like we see the vision, we see the potential, but like, it's just not enough of a sample size and not enough of a consistent sample size at that in a positive manner to make you feel confident in putting Julian Strawther out there for Jalen Pickett, which is part of the reason why I advocated for Pickett in the second half of the year. But to your point, playoffs time, it's too slow. Game slows down. Like it's just not made for that. And so, you talked about it, I think earlier when you opened up with Michael Porter Jr. that, this could be the gut shot, regardless of, if Denver wins game 3, and all that kind of stuff goes on. I mean, Denver gets bounced in the first round. This roster is completely different come next season.
So one of the reasons why I wasn't devastated, I mean, I was really upset that they lost KCP. And I think KCP would be a difference on this roster.
I completely agree. Already.
There's no doubt about it. But one of the things I came back to about KCP that made me believe that, it's not necessarily just the devastating blow is last year in the playoffs, game 2 against LA, 6 points, game 3 against LA, 5 points, game 5 against LA, 5 points, game 1, Minnesota, 6 points, game 2 against Minnesota, 4 points, game 5 against Minnesota, 3 points, game 6 and 7, 9 and 5 points. They needed more scoring from that production. They just needed more production from that spot on offense. And obviously they have defensive issues, but the defense really hasn't been the issue through 2 games, the playoffs so far. Part of it's because they're not facing one of these really small, twitchy guards that KCP is so good on. But what I look at tonight with Christian Braun, he had 5 points. He's your main transition scorer. Like I said earlier in the game, or early in the podcast. They didn't get out in transition after the first, quarter. They stopped doing that. Christian was just a ghost on offense. It wasn't someone the Clippers had to consider. And in game one, especially down the stretch, Christian and Aaron made themselves threats.
Yep.
And Russell Westbrook did too. Tonight, Christian Braun wasn't a threat. Tonight, Aaron Gordon, he was 5 of 13 from the field and they had 14 points. He had James Harden on him most of the game.
Mm-hmm.
The Nuggets needed to keep going back to AG in the post. And maybe there's something more to that injury that got him on the injury report that we didn't know about that prevented him from having such a high usage rate. But I think Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun were just not there tonight. We talked about it last game, and it's like your three guys had bad games. Now the other two did.
Right.
And it's just like the Nuggets all season have had this problem. They just haven't been able to get all five guys going at the same time. Not in certain portions of the game, not in certain portions of the season. The only time it looked good was right before the All-Star break. And we know what was going on behind the scenes now.
Right. Yeah. And they were beating up bad teams. Pelicans, they played a few times, whatever. That's all beyond us now. You know what they're missing, Jake? They're missing some juice. Like they don't have much energy. Like, and I like Jamal Murray. I do. And like, obviously he'll get pumped up, hits a big three, whatever. But like, I think back to Anthony Edwards, game one.
Stop for a second. He brought the juice tonight when he got shoved by Norm Powell, said, "Not in my house."
Yes.
He went up in his face and he caused a little fracas, right?
But that was
is the way the Nuggets responded to that, AP. They came out with nothing. Their guard just got them a free throw, and Jamal's out here brooding, and the fans are going wild. And then there's no secondary response from the Nuggets. They've been able to throw punches, but they haven't been able to throw counter punches all season long.
That's the thing. They don't look like the, Floyd Mayweather, for lack of a better phrase, in the corner, where it's like, oh man, like, okay, Oscar De La Hoya is a good boxer, right? Manny Pacquiao is a good boxer, but this is Floyd Money Mayweather. And like, I agree with you. Like they did have a little bit of that juice tonight with Jamal and that little scuffle with Norman Powell, but it was in a microcosm. It was in a snow globe. Like after that happened, and I know the refs clamped down a little bit, but like after that, it was like par for the course, just kind of back to business. And so again, like a lot of the details that we found out about Michael Malone, oh, we lost the locker room, oh, his message wasn't being received. A lot of that I think you're also seeing just in regards to the players of like I'm not saying that they don't want to be there, but like they almost look disengaged at times or like confused. I don't know how to explain it. Like they don't look like a team that is driven to try to win a championship this season. They want to win, I believe that, but they don't have that belief that they can do it. And that belief can be infectious in a good way when you have it.
To me, it's been a hunger thing. And the way ownership was trying to create that hunger was the pressure of everything's going to change next year if you guys don't figure this stuff out, as proved by we just fired your coach. Believe it, And I thought maybe that desperation of that move might drive that hunger, but I don't know how hungry they would have to be to beat Oklahoma City. And that's the thing, is it just comes down to that, is they are not an elite team. And the funny part is, AP, you look at it, they almost won as many games as they did their championship season this year, 50, and they won 53. They won more games last year. They were statistically a better team last year than they were their championship season or this year. And you can just tell that they have a switch and they're not able to activate it all the time. They activated in the first in game one in the fourth quarter. They got super aggressive. They tried to do it tonight, and they made a bunch of mental mistakes. Like they tried to get even more aggressive and raise their level, and they got out of their MO, their mojo, whatever you want to call it. Like they weren't within their bodies anymore. It was bizarre.
Yeah, and that's just kind of been the vibe throughout the course of this team all season. Donald, see the comment here. They look lost at times, 100%. Like, I'm not trying to say it's a ship without a captain, because like obviously like Nikola Jokic is the captain, but it's like you've been into battle with this guy so many times, right? That it's like who's the new knight in shining armor to a certain extent? Who's going to be the person that injects some life into this organization? And probably not going to find out who that person may or may not be till the offseason. And so, look, it's frustrating. And here's the thing. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer more so than anything. Like, I have them losing game 3. Like, I think Denver's going down 2-1. I'm not completely sold on them bouncing back immediately. And I know that's a DEFCON scenario for people, but I think they can come back and win game 4. Again, Nuggets in 7 is my prediction. But like, and maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, to be completely honest with you. But I just think the Clippers, momentum, juice, first playoff game in Intuit Dome, right? Like, I expect the Clippers to play better as a group than they did tonight. I think Kawhi had a good game, but I expect James Harden to be better. I expect Norman Powell to be more consistent. I still don't think we've seen the Clippers' best punch, for lack of a better phrase, and I'm kind of just expecting that in Game 3. So we'll see how it shakes out, man. And look, it's funny, right? Because it's like Game 1. We're all happy. We're smiling. We're excited. Now, and it's like Game 2, like, is this Michael Porter Jr.'s last game as a Nugget if he can't get back and being healthy? And so, like, that's sports,
Damn,
man.
I didn't even think about that. Oh, my God. You're right.
It's the emotional
You're
roller
right.
coaster of this game, but we'll see. It's just, again, to go back to the Zach Bye analogy, I don't think there's a Listerine that you could just swoosh around your mouth and make it all better. Like this is going to require some surgery and some patching up.
Yeah, and you sound like you're doing like the Death of the Nuggets podcast already.
I'm not trying. No.
Yeah. I mean, I'm upset with the way the Nuggets, played tonight, or not played, but just executed down the stretch, and just the mental mistakes. I think that's just brutal, and that's the type of thing that costs you a series when you just give away a game at home. To your point about going on the road, it's going to be an absolute hornet's nest in LA, in Inglewood, on Thursday night, with the first game in Intuit Dome. Remember the last Nuggets road playoff game, AP?
Must have been Minnesota, no?
115-70 Minnesota. That
yeah,
game 6
Jokic
Minnesota.
Standing with his hands on his hips.
Yeah, and all of us were like, all right, no big deal. They've got a game 7 at home. They'll be fine, right? Well, to me, that was maybe a sign of the cracks in the iron, or maybe games 1 and 2 were. But besides that awful, awful game, if you go back and look at what the Nuggets have done on the road recently in the playoffs, Game 3 and Game 4 against Minnesota, wins. Game 3 and Game 4 against LA in the first round last year, they split. Games 3 and 4 in Miami, wins. Games 3 and 4 in LA, wins. Game 6 in Phoenix, win. They've been good. This core has been good on the road in the playoffs. And to that point, AP, the Nuggets have been good on the road all season long. Like, they have been better on the road at times, I think, than people realize, or maybe even been at home. So I'm not too concerned about, them not being able to rise to the level, or being scared off by the crowd. This season at home, they were 26-15. On the road, they were 24-17. They were almost an identical team. Shot 43% at both. The free throws were like the same. Like, everything was the same basically at home and the road. So I'm not worried about that part of it. I am worried again if Michael Porter Jr. is not playing, because that's a death sentence to the Nuggets. And the way he looked in the locker room, to me, who was right next to him, it did not look like he was ready to play a basketball game right away tonight again. And maybe things change. There's modern miracles in the NBA all the time. Somehow LeBron James is still playing basketball. Don't know what that's about. So maybe MPJ can figure out that injury situation, but I'm really concerned about that moving forward. And it's going to be something we watch Wednesday, when the Nuggets shoot around, when that injury report comes out at about 6:00 Mountain Time. So we'll be looking for that. You'll hear from us Thursday afternoon,
yes,
as
sir,
a pregame podcast in our normal time slot, Mile High Hoops podcast, Thursday at 2:00 Mountain. We'll do a little preview about what we expect in that game. And then again, we'll go live Thursday night after the game, as soon as our draft stuff wraps up on denversports.com. So, I gotta have a stream to be able to go live on. So we'll be going live Thursday night after the game. But for the meantime, you can catch all of our content on denversports.com. I did a little recap video that's coming up later tonight, as well as, just a bunch of content. I've got some real comprehensive thoughts on David Adelman, who Anilo says shouldn't be the next head coach of the Nuggets. I don't know yet, to be honest.
No.
I don't know what that decision's going to be. I don't love the idea of a rookie coach with, these expectations. But at the same time, I think he does some really good play drawing, and you saw that in Game 1. AP, any other thoughts as we wrap up?
I've got thoughts, but I'm going to save a lot of them. You've got some writing to do. I mean, look at this guy. It is 2:00 in the morning, and you're like Russell Westbrook right now. You got one speed. Go. This dude's about to go crank out the content for us at denversports.com. Look, I think to put a bow on it, good start, sloppy ending, mistakes, nothing new. And I'm curious now, like, let's see what kind of heart this Denver Nuggets team has. Michael Porter Jr. is taking it hard. We'll see if he plays in the first place, but I'm very curious to see how they respond. Do they come out and play with fury and vengeance and passion on Thursday night, or do they come out and roll over like a lame duck? That's what I'm interested for. But tonight, I can't even count them on just one hand. It would take both hands to count the reasons as to why they lost this game. So it's a frustrating loss, but it's one game of a series. You're tied up at 1-1, got to flip the page and get back after it now in game 3.
Mile High Appliance, shout out our friends over there. This is the Mile High Hoops podcast. We will talk to you very soon. Tune in to denversports.com.